this guy's about to blow your fucking mind. They're like, I'm sorry, I don't see the bull case. I'm like, this is. Can we just get a like this? There's got to be a bull out there, you know.
We were just talking about how Carlos was tired, and he before the Tesla live stream, he was like dead tired, and then we invited people on because I didn't know we had an hour till Elon talked. I would have started a little later.
Like, fuck, I was like, we got to.
I was like, fuck, we have 47 minutes. Thank you, 95 people for being here. And then I was like, all right, someone just joined the call. We got to kill some time until Elon talks. And then the two biggest bears hop on the call, and then Carlos goes from. What did you say? Toyota?
Yeah, I went plaid.
I was like, Toyota's gonna win. He was like, what?
And well, the chat too. Like, as much as I tried to keep track of the chat with just being you and me, it's still really hard.
Yeah.
But some of those the comments were fucking so funny. Like, the chat was really funny. I gotta say thank you guys because it gave me a laugh when I like scrubbed through it back.
No, it was hilarious because it's the shit that wakes you up in the morning, bro. It's like someone says something and you're like, fuck, now I got it. Like today, Pouncer opened at $18.19. And so I go from
crazy.
All right, market open to oh boy.
The market is open. You got your falsetto on. You're gonna do a falsetto. Palantir breaks $20, you're gonna do a whole podcast in falsetto.
Well, the thing is the cowbell actually wakes me up pretty easily in the morning because like, all right, I'm ready. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. Thank you everyone for being here. We covered Tesla earnings a couple of hours ago. Some of you were with us, and Carlos killed it with his analysis. Was really, really awesome. TJ, already a super chat.
TJ is fucking the man.
Appreciate everything you guys do. It truly saves me a lot.
I didn't mean he's fucking the man. I mean he's fucking the man. Just for clarity. And by the way, who was this?
Thank you, TJ, for the super chat.
Must be hot in California. Yo, it is so fucking hot out here today. 101 degrees. It's this. And it's like you're on the East Coast, so you don't know what that dry. It's that desert.
Yeah.
It just
we get to 95 max.
Fuck out.
We get 95 max. Yeah.
It's no joke. Anyway, how is everybody? What's up, Chris?
What's up, guys? Dude, my wife watched your live stream. She was like, it was like the show that would never end. I was like, yeah, man, that's how Tesla presentations are. You know, there's just so
that's
much
how those
info.
earnings go. Well, to Mitt's point, we didn't realize that it was going to be an hour after they announced the earnings to when they had the live.
We had to kill an hour, and we had bears come on from the StreamYard and debate Carlos for an hour until Elon talked. It was great.
Yeah, and then we had a little wrap up after that. The conclusion that was nice. That was a little more tame. A little more tame. But I could imagine. Like seriously, we got to be able to do at least like maybe we should do the end phase one. All four of us. We should get on the phone on the live for that one. Nice, nice Everclear boy.
Here's a question to you guys. So what happened on the conference call? Like, why was there?
Wait, hold on. Before we get into stocks, we got to do something real quick first. Okay, so Chris, do you remember that girl, the gang ice cream gang girl?
Oh, I know.
Yeah, she's gone viral. She's viral now.
She has turned into an international sensation. Okay, like she's the thing. So I just want to pull up her TikTok real quick. Her name is I'm sad to say I was watching her today because it was really interesting.
You just outed yourself. Just outed yourself. Hide the Kleenex and get rid of the Jergens.
No, it's not like that. I was just so curious, bro. She's making $4,000 an hour. That's that's how much she's making.
Doing what?
She has 573,000 followers. She had like 200,000 a couple weeks ago or whatever.
Right.
And she's actually blown up. She's not live right now. But what I wanted to talk about is the phenomenon of people basically seeing what she's doing and replicating it all over TikTok.
Oh, I've seen it. I've seen even the guys doing it. Yeah,
there was a guy who made 10,000 yesterday, and he's doing like gang ice cream gang. It's just all over TikTok. And I guess the topic I wanted to bring up is, do you think it's smart for people to see something that's working from a monetization perspective and try to milk it? Or do you think we're losing respect for humanity for people to replicate a strategy like this, even though it's paying like $5,000 an hour?
Did you guys ever see this movie with what's his name? Gerard Butler, where I forgot what it was called, where basically you could give up control of your body to like random people and they could control you and they would pay you to basically like do real things. And it was a very dystopian kind of movie, and it's kind of sad, but we're starting to go into that like zone of things, and it really sucks, man. But I don't know. This is how society is. I feel like sometimes people end up
pull up Tony G's comment. That's funny.
What do you say?
I don't know.
You know, it's just
bro.
one of
I
those
like it.
things,
It's kind of cool
know.
to be honest. People are milking it, making thousands now. It's not gonna last. It's a trend. It's gonna die out in like maybe a couple weeks. But
The
people are
thing
No,
is,
that's what
I
the-
think
yeah.
to Chris's point, it's more about like what does that say about like where we're going? Where's the trend going with this? Like just to get serious for a second, like nobody should be making $5,000 an hour. What she's doing is she's imitating AI. Do you get that? That's like
yes,
the underlying.
that's the thing that she's
What
doing.
she's
right.
doing is she's like imitating an AI, like a video game character that has like set responses and movements, and she's imitating them. And I guess people are prompting her with certain things or with money, whatever it is. And I mean, I don't
It's
know.
kind of insane. It's pretty, and I agree with you as well. Like the fact that people have to go to this to be able to make money, I guess it just points out the market opportunity in content, which is that, bro, she had 35,000 people watching her do that. And it's like, there's just so much opportunity for content creation. It's just, what does that mean for the average person in terms of what they do to,
I just think that's literally like the lowest common denominator,
yes.
right? And the problem with that is that, yeah, she's an NPC. She's basically
non-player character. That's what it's
and so
called.
At the end of the day, okay, how many for every one of her, how many people are going to get the idea that they could go and do the same thing and fail utterly miserably, right? So you only see the success stories with those, and you don't see the same thing with like those OnlyFans girls. You don't see all the other girls that are making no money and basically ruining their entire lives, right? Because now you go get a job anywhere, or even if you're going to go date some guy that's remotely serious and they do a Google search and they find that out, like you're ruined. Or if you have children and then that someone finds out that mommy's on this app, it's like you have to weigh. I don't know where I heard this quote, but it's like weigh everything in terms of what it costs you, right? Like weigh everything that you get in terms of what it's going to cost you to achieve it. And I just think that the cost is way too high. Now, if she's smart and she does that for 3 months and banks a fuck ton of money, starts investing,
which is what I think the plan should be for anyone doing that.
If
she
she
gets
does
the money,
that,
invest it, you're good to go.
If she does that, life hack, dude, life hack. She gamed it. She basically cheat coded the internet.
So your issue is not doing it. Your issue is if she wants to make a career out of this concept.
Well, I have an issue with her doing it, but I'm also like not like anti-capitalist. Like if someone's throwing you, like if somebody wanted to pay me $5,000 an hour or whatever it is to sit there and act like a robot, I would do it for however number of hours I would need to get the Tesla, finish my Tesla position, have the Bitcoin. You know what I'm saying? And then I'm gone.
That's exactly what I'm thinking.
I'm gone. Like literally
everybody in the chat would, bro, $5,000 an hour to go gang ice cream. Ooh, cowboy.
I'll do that because I'm kind of doing that anyway. I'm just doing it for someone else, like working at a job, right?
Yeah.
So I'll go do that. But literally, and I joke about this on Twitter. My goal is to like get off the grid. Like one day I disappear, my Instagram disappears, like my whole social disappears. Maybe I continue doing this with you guys, and I'm gone. you know?
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to bring it up because it's turning into a phenomenon. But you see
what you started, Chris?
I'm not the one who started it.
How did you first come up? How did you first find it?
Twitter.
It came up on my Twitter feed, and I was just at first when I first saw it, I was just like, "Oh man, here goes another stupid TikTok trend." And then like I saw Riley post on it, like continued on my thread, and I was just like, "This is getting out of hand." And so, I still remember about 15 years ago when the first video game streamers came on, right?
Oh yeah.
I didn't think it was going to be a business that would work. I was like, man, who's going to pay to watch someone else play a video game? Like that's the whole point of a video game, to escapism. So you could you could turn your brain off and play and, but I suppose watching someone else do it is even, I don't want to say lazier, but it's even less stressful because now you're not making decisions. You're letting someone else make decisions on your behalf, but you're still getting the fantasy out of it. So I don't know what the appeal to this is. Some of it is just deprecation. Like some people get off on watching people self-deprecate a little bit. Another thing is like there is a attraction.
Check the private chat, Chris. I sent you something for Chris.
There's some of it is just attraction to the disgusting for some reason because people just want to see people do weird. Oh man. Dude, I don't want to show this, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna show it.
This was a compilation video that was spawned as a result of this chick.
I've been trying to find some of these. All right, here we go.
Check this out.
I haven't seen this before.
Thank you all for the likes. I appreciate it. The roses. 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 Please. I like chicken.
Hello, I'm AI.
Rebooting. System rebooting.
Thank you for your...
Bro, that was an older guy.
Thank you for the share.
Life. Get Queen Slaying. Hi, Zaza.
Guys, thank you all.
Okay, I kind of agree with Chris now, bro. Seeing it like that makes it feel dystopian because it's like just imagining that times a million people doing it.
That's your whole feed. It's just people acting like freaking dumb AI. It's ridiculous.
I mean, imagine telling this to imagine someone discovering this at your job that this is your part-time income stream.
They'll be mad you're making $5,000 an hour too.
Imagine HR calls you in, excuse me, I'd like to see you in my office. It's like, I've heard that you're on the internet, doing this.
To your point about the video game things, I always felt like that would be a hit because I grew up, we didn't have any internet, and so my house was sort of the house where everybody would come over, and we had like the Super Nintendo, and we had like TurboGrafx and whatnot, and I was really good at video games. Like the games that I still play, I'm really good at. So we would sit around and we would have these like crazy challenges. Like we would just I would sit there and I would play Street Fighter, and the idea would be to play Street Fighter 2 back in the day with Street Fighter 2 with only perfect games. So if you got hit once, you had to start the game over. And these are challenges that we would do, or like Bonk's Adventure or Mario, and beat it without getting touched. And my sister and my younger brother, they were too young to be able to participate, but they wanted to see the game get beat. Right. And so for them, they had no way of doing it. So they'd watch. It was kind of like, when you would watch Michael Jordan play a good game. You want to watch someone really good at something being really good. And a lot of what made Twitch popular was like guys doing like speed runs, like running through Halo.
Yes,
you know what I mean? Just speed running. How fast can you beat the game on the hardest difficulty level? Those kinds of things. They show you what's possible, or they show you, or you see like crazy battles. Like if you had Mario Kart battle mode, if you guys played that as kids, I mean, imagine being able to go online and compete with other people. So I could see the appeal of that.
Dude, I used to speed run.
Chris is sitting there at 200 a month. Buy spreads.
I used to, dude. If I ever have,
thank you for the $5.
If I ever get to the point where that is how I generate income, you guys have permission to come over and just blow my head off. Because at that point, I've sold my soul to the devil.
Okay, so to push back just a little, what is the difference between us getting a super chat and responding to it versus what the girl is doing? Just
no.
Providing,
Actually, do me a favor. Answer your own question, Amit. Please answer your own question.
No,
answer that question. Just show us that you can answer that question, please.
Okay, obviously the answer is if someone asks you a question and they're wanting to support your stream and you give an intellectual answer to hopefully an interesting question that's not
value.
It's value, right? But
I would think it's because like we're able to synthesize a lot of data, put it all together, and utilize our experience as investors for the last 15, 20 years, apply all that logic, and then present it in a case to everyone so that they can make a more comprehensive decision. And so that's why people are throwing us super chats, not because, we're just doing,
Yo, ET FaceTime is doing your favorite quote. He's like, TFC, buy medical.
TFC, SLG, TFC,
SMCI.
Thank you.
Banks, bitch.
Vitaly would just be like, Enphase, micro,
Enphase,
micro inverters.
Is our view count going up? I'll keep going.
I know. Well, Johnny's screaming at us. He's like, change the subject. People want to hear about stocks.
Okay. All right. Well, I just wanted to bring that up because I wonder how long this lasts, bro. That's what I'm curious about.
And there'll be another phase. There'll be another phase. I think that it'll dumb it down even more.
Watch it evolve into the next thing, dude.
I could see it being. Couldn't you see it being a game show?
It could,
like some sort of like competition reality game show or something.
Good.
All right. So here's a question, guys. So what exactly happened during Tesla earnings that made it drop? I heard that Elon said that there were going to be more price cuts. The operating margin came up a little bit lower than what people were expecting. I haven't seen anything. Like I'm a complete green because I had to sleep. Like I was up all night yesterday doing DD on another company. So I was tired. So maybe you guys could tell me what exactly was the reason why it fell.
You want to start off, Amit?
Yeah, I mean, the highlights are, so it sold off after hours at 279. The sell-off was only justified because it has run up so much. I mean, there's nothing fundamental that came out of the company. Margins on automotive came in at 18.14, which was better than what the street expected at 17.7. So margins decreased, but not at the level that the street thought it would. Still 3 times better than any other car manufacturer. That was first. Revenue came in at 24.9 billion. Street expected 24.6, so they beat about by 300 million. EPS came in at 91 cents. Street expected 89 cents. So all those core metrics were fine. Energy is up 74% year over year. in terms of growth. That's doing great. Energy
Vehicles were up 47%. Again, within that 3% margin of error for their 50% year-over-year growth.
Right. Some qualitative stuff on the call. They said next quarter's deliveries are going to suck because they're redoing some stuff in the factory, getting some stuff ready. So they're just warning us about it. So as a result, if you wanted to buy a Tesla, you can grandfather in your FSD and not have to pay for it. So that's a lever they're pulling because that's a big deal to have to pay another 15 grand. So if you paid $5 grand in 2016, you can bring that into a new car if you want to upgrade. So that should help deliveries next quarter. Talked a little bit about Optimus. Basically, Elon was bragging about how it's the shit and no one understands that it's the shit and you guys are all underestimating it. And then the main thing I think that he was really saying was gross margins and these numbers and all these delivery stuff. He's like, it's going to look like a blip when autonomy succeeds. And he said he doesn't want to be the guy who cries FSD, but he thinks FSD is done by the end of this year. And so
Rango's comment too, that energy margins were larger than auto margins.
Correct.
Yeah.
And they're sold out. They're sold out of mega packs for a while. Solar has remained flat, and this is actually something that relates to Enphase, which is going to be reporting in a few days. That it remained flat, and mostly it was just due to interest rates. So for Enphase, that hopefully will lower expectations so that the stock doesn't get hit as much. But now buying opportunity.
Now, what was interesting about it is that even without looking at these numbers, I don't want to say I kind of knew that things were going to come down a little bit, because what happens is when you have these giant run-ups, and I posted this a while ago, you guys saw it, earnings is not necessarily so much about the actual numbers that come out, but more about the sentiment of expectations and the Lizzo Beyonce. It's a Lizzo
Beyonce. You tweeted 17 times today, bro. We saw it. We saw it.
Yeah. So, and it's kind of the same thing too with some of the stocks that I have as well. Like SLG, the numbers were actually very good. Like FFO was up, they're doing good. They did have to write down a building that they had some arbitration in, where basically their leasehold, so every year the rent was $5 million, and then the landlord had this ability to do a rent reset after a certain period of time. So the rent now went up to 20 million. And so that 20 million makes the building uneconomical. So they had to write off the entire building's leasehold that SLG has for it. But that is still in a litigation phase. They were just prudent and just said, look, we're not going to take any chances. We'll just write off what we have to. But in terms of earnings and cash flow, they're doing well. SLG might end up in the short term going down a little bit, but it's not going to be anything like where it retraces back to its like lows for the year, So companies like SLG, companies that are completely like in this zone of, hey, this is a completely dead sector, they're gonna do fine. We're already starting to see signs of life in the sector. And it's the same thing with the regional banks. The regional banks you guys saw was so oversold, man. Like you could not believe how much overselling there was. So this week when the numbers came out and they were just not bad, most of the numbers weren't like, oh my God, they were just not bad. Damn, the entire sector just ran up like crazy. I told you my DPST position, that was a really good move on Monday. I'll probably sell a good portion of it tomorrow as the final regional banks start selling off, and I'll just chill a little bit and wait for the next run up for some of the other sectors. So I think overall SLG is still a good stock. The only thing is we've had a run up from $20 to almost 35. Yeah. So we might end up seeing a small retracement in the short term, only because some of the news that just came out wasn't that great for it. But if you look back behind, like if you take the curtain and you move it back, you can actually see that the numbers are great. FFO is how you're supposed to measure the success of a company, and FFO came ahead of expectations. So when you're valuing REITs, don't look at net income, because net income is not going to show you what the true value of a REIT really is. It's going to be in the AFFO, which is the adjusted operating metrics, and the other one is FFO. So, just keep that in mind.
So can I just back up to Tesla?
Yeah, I was about to keep going. Go ahead.
Since the time that we had off the call, I had a chance to collect my thoughts, and I just wrote some stuff down, looking back at the call, because if Chris, if you're completely blind to anything that's happened, it's interesting to me the bit of the news that did get to you, and it was all negative. This was one of the earnings calls that had the most like bullish, some of the most bullish information that I've heard in recent quarters. And we have Cybertruck to look forward to next quarter. So I'm just going to run through a list of some of these things in sort of random order as they were stream of consciousness. Tesla can, the three ways you can make more money on vehicle sales are to raise prices, sell more units, or lower costs. And Tesla has basically said that they're uniquely positioned, that they're the only ones that they can do all three. And as they become, and Elon said this, as we become a larger portion of the revenue of our suppliers, we also have increased leverage. And that comes down to driving down costs. They didn't mention this, but we are now, one of the people we spoke to before the Bears was talking about end of life for a Tesla battery. And we haven't even talked about Tesla's being able to amplify prior sales using battery recycling, where they can essentially recycle 95% of these batteries into new batteries, which will drive down their input costs even more. They didn't even talk about lithium mining and refinement, which they're currently working on in Nevada, which is going to be a huge thing. And here's another thing to come back to the guy that was talking about competition is coming, and that how does a Tesla get to a $10 trillion valuation? Right now, the incentives that are in place are also in place for legacy automakers. They're getting $7,500 off, and they're not moving any units. Dealerships are piling up are full with these vehicles right now. They're not moving units. And when people have a choice to pay for a higher priced Tesla with or without an incentive, they're still picking the Tesla. The Model Y was the number one selling vehicle. Okay, vehicle, not even just not just EV, all vehicles, and it unseated the RAV4, which was prior to that was the best selling gas vehicle as well. What's starting to happen is the street is starting to realize that the competition isn't there yet, and there's no ETA as to exactly when they're going to be. This last quarter where they compressed their margins really, it highlighted a major flaw in the legacy automakers in their bid to catch up to Tesla or to reach certain milestones that, in 2020 they had set for 2025, 2026. And as we said at the end of the other call, when those milestones, when that time frame comes to fruition, what's Mary Barra going to say in 2025 when she said that we would catch up and surpass Tesla by 2025? And I think part of what gets Tesla to those valuations is when the street realizes that there is no competition. It's not even that the competition is coming. It's that there is no competition. Yeah, the Chinese makers are going to come in, but that can easily, depending on the administration, they can slap on a massive tariff on those vehicles and suddenly make them uneconomical, right? It won't be the same mistake that we made in the 70s when they let the Japanese cars in, right? And basically the automakers at the time just relinquished that entire segment of the market. So there's a lot of and they produce the numbers that they produce with tremendous headwinds, with rates being what they were, and also inflation being what it was. Yeah. So it can't be understated. Like what would they have done? What would the numbers have been if that didn't happen? And you have to understand that they were one of the only companies that had all of these levers that they could pull to still have record production and revenue. So some other things that I had. Okay, legacy auto right now is living off of the vapors of COVID price increases. So that is offsetting the units that they're not moving. Remember, they had a bunch of price increases during COVID due to supply chain issues. And now we know that that's just not happening. And as they're bringing the prices down, they're actually eating into their own already bleeding margins. And so, like, for example, Ford said that they expect to lose $3 billion this year in Q1 guidance. But that was when they thought they had a full year of F-150 Lightnings, right, or on order, and that hasn't happened. So with the Cybertruck announcement, how many of those pre-orders have been canceled? We saw some of that too. How many of those pre-orders are being canceled? Global auto sales 60 million. I only caught a bit. Yeah, it's a big. It literally is. I mean, other than like housing, cars is one of the most massive markets and a great indicator of the health of an economy. Here's another statistic, Chris. They now have 350 million cumulative FSD miles driven by the fleet, about 4 million vehicles that are driving out collecting this data. To put that in perspective, they were at 140 million last quarter. So they drove the equivalent of all the years of FSD prior in these last 3 months. The data that they're getting is huge.
And the big announcement is they're licensing the FSD to.
That was another huge thing. That was one of the like retail questions that I thought he would never answer on the call, but he actually did announce that he's in talks with one of the legacy automakers to license FSD. And we thought that this could happen since they've already opened up the supercharger. And the speculation that I'm seeing on Twitter is that it's actually Ford. And I wouldn't have guessed that it's Ford, but that it's actually Ford. Now that's I don't know.
I don't
That's
know,
a
man.
little.
I definitely wouldn't do it. I'd
What
be
if
like,
you were
screw
them?
that. If I was Tesla, hell yeah, you couldn't pay me enough to give you one of my biggest moats. Think about that. Like, I mean, how much of a moat does full FSD give? I understand the reasoning behind being generous and saying we want more electric cars, so we're going to give everyone the
I don't
NCAS
think it's about generous. It's
standard.
about making money.
Making money.
No. I'm saying the NCAS side will end up enabling more companies to go the EV route, but FSD is one of your giant value propositions, right? You don't want to give that up. Like, think about it. If I could, I'll be straight with you guys. If you told me, Chris, choose between an F-150 and a Cybertruck, I would probably pick the Cybertruck for FSD. But if that was available to me on the F-150, I'd go with the F-150. So it's
Not a bad
something
point.
that people,
Not a bad point.
some
But
people are going to have to see it.
I think an educated buyer, when both of those vehicles are out and you go and test those vehicles, it's not just the vehicle itself; it's the whole ownership experience, right? Like there's somebody who posted
No,
recently.
people love the F-150, bro. That's the America's most loved
They can
car.
love it, but they haven't had a chance to experience a Cybertruck yet. Part
I
of
don't know
what
if you get Middle America off the F-150. Those people in Michigan and
listen,
Detroit.
you guys know this. I dated a chick from Pennsylvania who had 11 brothers. Okay, and she was the youngest. Her dad always wanted a daughter. Had kids with 4 different women till he finally got a daughter. And I was dating her, so I was around these guys. There was like 11 of these guys. The oldest one at the time, we were like 22. The oldest one was like 40 something, and they all drove these massive trucks, like the Rams with the dual tires. We would go to truck shows and stuff. I know those people pretty well. Not all of them are going to switch over for the same reasons that not all of them want EVs. Some of it is just pure stubborn, but I do know that there is a tipping point where if someone makes it cool, then suddenly it's just cool.
Like I said, I'm just saying, even like from an ecosystem perspective, think about Apple, right? Apple versus the Google thing. Google licenses it out, the OS, to everybody. So now you have Android on top of, everything. Yet Apple makes the lion's share of the money. Why? Because they have a closed system which only Apple is allowed to have. So they can make money on the device sales. So like, I get the reasoning that, hey, we want to grab as much market share as possible, but you're also going to have another couple of complications there. So as an example, like if you, let's say, license FSD out to Ford and Ford doesn't do everything by standard and someone gets into a car accident, it's like, oh, whose fault is it? Is it the fault of Ford for making a shitty car, or is it Tesla's FSD that caused this to happen in the first place? So there's so much risk that you are outsourcing out. I would rather keep everything internal, keep it to myself, and basically develop my own platform around it. I mean, if the other automakers want to get together and consolidate their resources and make a different product, by all means, go right ahead. I just don't think giving up your competitive moats is the way to go.
But it's what Rango said at 726, that Tesla can only physically make so many cars. So they can only physically monetize so many cars. And you have to understand, if their long-term play with FSD is robo-taxi, and you've got, say, a company that has an existing fleet, to have that company then purchase only Teslas would take way longer than just starting to make the money off of the FSD, which also gives you data. And so Tesla would now be basically monetizing any one of those rideshare services in addition to their own. And the Tesla one would be cheaper because they'd be offered at a cheaper price.
I don't know. Like I said, to me, I see dilution of the brand if that were to happen. So I wouldn't do it. But that's, you know what? I'm not Elon Musk. I'm not the CEO of Tesla. I don't see things like he does.
I felt the same way when they opened up the supercharger. There was a bit of like, fuck those guys. Like, let them suffer on, Electrify America, broken chargers. Let them suffer on those. Even understanding what Elon's mission is. But again, the Model Y itself sold twice what all of the other, sold twice the number of all of the other EV makers combined. The amount of EVs that are out there by other automakers is relatively low. They're still having massive problems even trying to ramp.
But that's where the question.
It's a problem.
But that's where the question that you should be asking is the moral objective to do right by the shareholders or do right by humanity? Because if you're doing right by humanity, totally, I agree. Open up your systems to getting more EVs, right? Mm-hmm. But in terms of like shareholder value, are you sure you want to do that? Like, I would suspect once this goes into full production and so many automakers are on a Tesla, charging standard, And now you go to a Tesla charging station and it's all occupied by third party companies, unless you're ready to build out that infrastructure to like maybe 5 times its current size, you're going to see a dilution of quality that you expect to get with a
But
Tesla right now.
but they're already expanding. And understand the EV tax credits that they've been getting all those years, basically from the car manufacturers not producing enough EVs, have been paying Tesla. They would to buy these clean energy credits. Those credits have been turning into superchargers. He announced on the call that they have 50,000 stations worldwide. That's not exactly number of stalls. That's just the number of stations worldwide.
No. That's number of stalls.
And
like
so
the number of stations is 15,000, something like that. There's no way that it's 50,000 stations.
Okay, so no. Okay,
like I've been tracking on the Tesla supercharging tracker. It's not like I said, it's going to be region specific. I think the unlock of non-Tesla vehicles to Tesla supercharging stations, and it will be definitely a big revenue driver in the future. But it also means that there might be some takeaways in terms of exclusivity and reliability for the average Tesla user. Trust me, you as a Tesla user, how annoying would it be that every time you pull up to a Tesla station and there's a bunch of F-150s, a bunch of Kias and everything else pulled there. And now you already know I've seen lines at some of the charging stations
here's
where
the thing. Most of the people that have Teslas charge at home. Superchargers are not a large percentage of the time that you actually charge your vehicle. It's a small percentage. I mean, I could show you on my app how infrequent I use them on long trips, right?
Right.
You'll be using these chargers. Most people are going to be charging these things at home. And so
but it's still
really an issue.
But it still would be annoying if you're on, like, let's say a 6.5-hour trip. You're like, okay, you know what? I've got 20 miles of battery. I should be good. You pull up to a stall and it's all being used by other companies. And now instead of you just going in, charging your car 30 minutes, you're out. You're going to have to wait 30, 60 minutes. And not to mention now, before, if a Tesla wasn't parked there, that they're not supposed to be there. Now, some of these F-150 guys or these other guys, they could just park their car and just let it sit there. And you really have nothing that you can do.
You can't, because there's called an idle fee. Like
but
every minute over you get $1 charge.
No, but that's if your car is plugged into the socket. If, let's say, someone just takes their EV, charges it, takes the thing out, puts it there, and then goes back and does something else, now it's going to sit there.
They're getting better actually about booting and towing those people.
Yeah, I mean, I hope they do. I'm sure that
there
are.
All I'm saying is this. It's not as much of an impact as you think. There's 4 million Teslas on the road right now, and say we have 50,000 stalls. It's not an issue right now, and they're continuing to expand that network. And also, they talked a little bit about it, like about on I think it was AI Day, about how the supercharger network, because it has the data on the vehicles, it knows how to route people. It's like an air traffic control, so it knows how to route people to superchargers that are available. Right, so it's not gonna route everyone to the most popular one that's gonna then choke that up. The goal of the routing of supercharging, because it makes sense to navigate to the supercharger. So this way, it knows, you can tell the network that you're looking to charge. It will navigate you to the one that's going to give you the fastest charge with no wait time. I don't think I've ever had a wait time at a charger. I've gotten there and I've been the last one and it's filled up. Yeah. But I've never had like the 2 or 3 hour waits at a supercharger station.
I would say I hope some EV companies, they partner, because I think this could be a huge business opportunity. Someone put it in the chat, Buc-ee's. Have you guys ever been to a Buc-ee's? I know I've spoken.
That's like a grocery store or a restaurant.
I've heard of it.
No.
It's a restaurant.
Buc-ee's.
Right? Fast food,
no,
right?
no. Buc-ee's is this giant gas station like behemoth where basically it's like a gas station with like 200 stalls. I kid, like, seriously, 200 stalls. And then there's like, if you go inside, there's like all sorts of like different food things that you could do. There's like things that you can buy, but basically it's like all a bunch of restaurants. And let me tell you, I've been to a few of these Buc-ee's. I could imagine seeing some of these some of these Tesla charging station locations turning into that. And that could be huge. Because, I mean, think about it this way. You have the undivided attention of most people for the next 20 to 30 minutes where they have absolutely nothing to do but sit in their car and watch a movie or something, right?
Or go inside and buy something or sit down.
Right. And as someone who has family who owns gas stations, I can tell you, there's no money in outside gas sales. We make 90% of our total gross profit inside. That bottle of water that people buy, it doesn't cost more than like 5 cents when we buy it wholesale, yet we're selling it for $1.50. Think about the margin on that, right? Now imagine that, multiply it by 100, 200,000 per day. You're talking about gas stations that could honestly make $1 million a month in net income, not gross income, net income.
Well, you bring up another point. Okay, as the ICE vehicle sales fall off a cliff, the gas suppliers have to do something, right? So, I mean, what is ExxonMobil going to do? What's Chevron going to do? What's BP going to do? Like, they have to do something, and they have all the real estate. They're in the right spot for people that want to pull over and you know.
Well, no, most of them they don't. Most of them they don't own the gas station's physical property. What they do is they will actually sell you. Like they're your suppliers basically. They're a branded gas station, but we own the property, we own the business that's on there. So it's not like
what I'm saying is that they have to do something to make up that loss in revenue. And actually, superchargers are way more capital efficient technology.
Yeah, because there's no delivery charges. There's no
no delivery charges, no storage. And if you go solar, some of what you're delivering to customers, you're getting for free. And then you're upselling it to charge the customers, say at night, right? When you're running off batteries or something.
And see, I think that's where true opportunity really, really lies, right? Where you're going to have a lot less people needing to supercharge their cars in the middle of the road, because like you said, 90% of people are going to be charging their cars at home. But then there are going to be times where you're doing like a pit stop. So imagine right now a supercharging station like this in the middle of Death Valley between Las Vegas and LA, right? And you have one charging station that has, let's say, like 500 stalls.
I know, right?
Like a 500 stalls. You know that like in between those 2 points that there's only one charging station. That charging station is going to be super occupied. So this is where I think lies some really big business opportunities. I wonder if there are some companies like Buc-ee's doing that calculation and saying, look, we need to find the most remote parts of the country where the total amount of driving range will be limited between 2 different access points, like 2 different city points, like 2 main city points. And then we should place our our charging stations there, and then include all the other stuff on top of it. And like you said, they could make a killing. So,
all right. So here's the real question. Okay.
By the way, check the private chat. I just sent you something you guys might not know.
Okay. 587 people want to know, Chris. 597 people want to know.
Mm-hmm.
Are you buying the stock?
Do you own
$270?
I own some Tesla shares. I mean, I own some options, Tesla options.
Okay.
But leaps, they're just leaps. So you know what? I'm not buying more right now. I'm holding off a little bit. Because I think the market in general has been a little bit overridden. No, you guys don't think so? In the last 60 days, you got so many companies, some companies, especially even the shit goes, have ran up 300.
We have to talk about Carvana, bro. Carvana's going to survive. It looks like they're going to survive. They got some debt financing done this morning. They're up 50%. They're up 1,000% for the year. It's insane. But no, I agree. The market's a little hot right now, so buying Tesla.
So the thing is, like, trying to add on strength is never a good idea. You always want to add during weakness. You know, the time to be adding was February, March, May, June. Not even June. Not June so much, but definitely during February, March, and May, when the market was just like, oh my God, everything is falling apart. And I know that's the hard part, right? Buying when things are down. You know,
Q1 is typically a shitty quarter for car sales anyway. So that would be if you're looking for any sort of natural dip in the seasonality of it, and he's getting high off that.
Right. So I smell like vanilla chai all day now.
So I would say right now I am not a net buyer of too many companies unless like there's some hidden value gems that are just not being discovered. You know, then I'll definitely do it, and I'm definitely not going to be investing any money into the hype train stocks that are centered around AI, because I think that a lot of AI companies have been overbought, you know, including some of the semi manufacturers. So, you know, there will be a time where those become appealing again. But right now it's a good time to just let your winners run and do their thing, and trim the companies that have been unusually high without any real without any
Metrics
real
behind it, yeah.
fundamentals behind it. Because like I said, when you have these things where retail investors drive the markets higher, eventually the market will wake up and things will come down. So I would say earnings is a great time where people have this come to Jesus moment where it's like, wait a second, this company's losing money? How does that happen? No, I'm investing in this company. And then people panic and then they sell and then all sorts of shit happens. So I'd say
expectations will be higher, right? If the
Yeah.
valuations have gone up, expectations will be higher to justify the increased premium on AI. You're going to want to see an increase. You're going to want to see an increase in some of the metrics on earnings to justify that. If not, then they're all going to come back down to
don't expect Beyonce, because otherwise Lizzo might show up.
Lizzo has a way.
And then you got to take that out.
This was just something real quick that I saw the other day, that because I know this spot. This is in Chatsworth in California. Tesla to convert Los Angeles movie theater into a delivery hub and national expansion. So this is massive movie theater. In movie theaters, people aren't going to movies anymore, so they're losing that real estate. And Tesla plans to take that and basically make it a delivery hub. So that would be a place where customers go to pick up their vehicles, which just even where it is on the street, the curb appeal, all of these things will help sell more Teslas. And this is another reason why I think it is a good idea to open up the charging network to other customers, because it forces them to be around other Tesla drivers. And I think you get to a point where someone if someone's in a Kona and they come up there, it might be the first time they're actually standing in front of a Model S or standing in front of a Model 3 or a Cybertruck, and you get the chance to speak to these owners. And I know that there'll be a convert. I believe that the convert would be non-Tesla owners buying Teslas after their lease or whatever is up versus Tesla owners buying, a Rivian or an F-150. So
I don't want to interrupt, but there's a couple of comments I just want to say. You guys are welcome about the regional banks. I know a lot of people kept saying thank you on there. And
Chris is like, I don't want to interrupt, but you're welcome for making some fucking money.
No, but they weren't. No,
even my friends too were writing me about that.
Carlos, I don't want to do it, but you guys are welcome for making.
I'm gonna let you finish, but able to Drake.
No, but the regionals are the greatest of all time. Okay.
No, but everyone was like, someone said thank you for Zion because they got into Zion. There's other regional banks.
Chris, it's okay. You can talk your shit. You deserve to talk.
No, man, I don't want to talk my shit. I think they were unreasonably sold off. It's fine. We bought. We rode up. Not a big deal. Like, it happens. Okay. This is not, trust me, this was not like the genius, oh my God, Chris move that a lot of people are thinking.
I disagree. There was no one on the fucking planet talking about regional banks publicly. I do.
No, I would say the credit in terms of research comes to me. See, things like that are not that hard to figure out. Let me tell you what is hard to figure out. Companies like SMCI. Okay, SMCI, I did close to like 60 days worth of real due diligence to get to the conclusion that, hey, there's a company out there that's going to disproportionately benefit from the run up in AI without people even noticing. And SMCI was that case. Like, if you think regional banks were like the thing, that's at least on the talking points of most CNBC. Who even knew about SMCI? Who was talking about SMCI in November when I was starting to talk about it with you guys? That's what really good fundamental research is all about. Finding those companies that are like super unknown and then can have these exceptional returns, So, yeah. Like I said, the regional banks are just literally a market correction. When you see companies that are, and especially sectors that are oversold, you find the best companies in that sector that are going to survive, that have a strong business model, have strong operating metrics, and boom, you can do well. That's not hard. Like, PayPal is not a hard thing to digest. It's like, hey, PayPal was up 80% higher 2 years ago after COVID, and now they're down 80%. But their revenue and everything else is still the same, if not still growing. Like, finding PayPal is not like, oh my God, a genius move. Finding SMCI is. So I would say the credit for that is a lot more. Like, I feel more, I would say I feel a little bit more confident as a researcher with companies like SMCI rather than
you were more proud of finding SMCI as a diamond in the rough than it was like PayPal seemed just more obvious.
Exactly. A lot of the regionals, believe it or not, it was a very obvious thing. And it's a sector-wide thing. You can see it. It wasn't. I did research on the regional banks, but it wasn't like the amount of research that I did with with SMCI and this other company that I put on my Patreon the other day. You know, that like I spent a good 2 weeks just doing a lot of due diligence on that company. So when it comes down to finding companies that a lot of people don't want to talk about or never like even on the radar, those are the ones that can give you that 6-7%. I mean, a 600 to 700% return over the course of like a year, 2 year period. If you're willing to really dig down and do the research. So I mean, I'm digressing, but you're welcome to everyone who was in the regional bank side. You know, I'm glad we all did well together. The prices have ridden up, and I still think we've still got quite some time to go because a lot of them were sold off a lot. So a lot of their businesses are still recovering. And the other good thing is as the interest rates start to come down next year, a lot of them that are sold under book, the fair market value adjustments, the assets that are on their balance sheets will end up going up. So they'll actually do even better. They'll go back to trading back at the mean that they are. Not to mention most of the ones that I looked at, their dividends are relatively safe. Like there's no dividend cuts anywhere. If anything, some of them are actually raising their dividends. So you're talking about it like when we bought TFC had like an 8% dividend. Think about it, an 8% dividend on a secure company that is a fucking bank. You literally bank. So there were so many people. I told my father-in-law, I said, you need to stop putting your money in the bank and you need to own the bank.
All right, we got to move on to this topic now. Before that, the super chat from Kevin. Thank you for $9.99.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for everything you guys do. LFG. Thank you, man. Really appreciate the super chat. It means a lot to us. All right, Carlos, you tweeted this one. Disney is now open to selling linear TV assets, including ABC, ESPN, FX, in an attempt to stop the bleeding as it nears 52-week lows. We got a lot of comments asking, is Disney a PayPal situation? Carlos, we'll start with you. What do you think?
I mean, I would buy Leaps. Honestly, I don't want
on Disney.
Yeah, I think that's what I would do. I think that's what I would do. Just because it's the same story. Like it's the same story. I think it's going to have to return to the mean. And if they sell off some of these, there'll be an infusion of cash, and it'll lower their employee count. Like they need to restructure. They need to organize. They're a company that kind of got a little bit too big too fast and just bought up everything. And I think now it's coming back down to earth. I mean, Disney is like a stock. You could have bought it 8 years ago. What was that statistic? If you put $100 in Disney 8 years ago, today you'd have $87. It's like, it's sad. Yeah, it's really sad what's happened to that company. A lot of it seems to be.
But I don't know what the leaps are. You think it gets back to 200 2021 price? You think that's where?
Not saying it gets back to 200, but can I see a world without Disney? No. I do think that they'll have to stop the bleeding, and they will figure this out. And actually, Bob Iger's the guy. A lot of people are saying to out him, but he was the guy. Like the company was kind of running like shit before he came back. And if anyone's going to do it, I think it's him.
So Amit, go to their financials real quick.
Actually, hold on. Let's use this. I signed up for this website today. I want to support my dude.
Oh, it's a good site.
Yeah, let me pull it up real quick.
Raphael is right. People are tired of Marvel. People are tired of the Marvel, the sequels. They're tired of the remakes, the live action remakes that don't have anything to do with it. I do think that at some point Disney has to pivot. And with a lot of these companies that get a little bit too big for themselves, they just, if they're smart, they revert back to the thing that made them successful in the first place. And I think that that's what's needed now. They're going to fire a bunch of people, and they're going to focus on creating content that people like, and get the parks back to where they need to be.
Okay, what do you want to know? This is really cool. So what do you want to know?
Okay, so I just want to see their cash flows and their cash flow statements for the last probably 5 years.
Cash and equivalents.
Cash and equivalents.
Total assets.
You could go to their operating cash flow, because the operating cash flow is always a good indicator for me. Net income is very fungible, but operating cash flows are something that's consistent. So what we're seeing is still a very good company in terms of operating cash flow. They're doing well on that. The only problem is they have a PR problem. Okay. PR problems are something that can be fixed very easily by getting rid of all the people that are making the terrible PR decisions for you. Kathleen Kennedy, honestly, she destroyed Star Wars. I am a big Star Wars fan. Like me and my brother,
we didn't gather that.
My niece, we got her a lightsaber, like the really expensive one, from Disneyland. Right. I wanted to get one, But I was just so disappointed, man. I was just like, man, I was such a big Star Wars fan for like ever. And the way that she's literally turned the Star Wars franchise into this, like, I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it.
It's a platform. It's almost like it is. It's a political platform.
Yeah, and that's not good, man, because like when you try to politicize everything, it ends up really backfiring because it turns a lot of like really loyal fans off from that. Like I'm the type of guy that, dude, I watch every single Star Wars genre thing that you could imagine. I loved all the movies, loved all the TV shows. I am a big Mandalorian fan. I would honestly pay double Disney Plus if they were actually doing well and doing good by their content, but they really are doing a really poor job with their content. They're focusing too much on their ESG and DEI initiatives and everything else, and basically diluting the brands that made them successful in the first place. I mean, we spoke about it with the whole Snow White thing, with the Little Mermaid thing. Like, you're trying to rewrite history to fit today's narrative, and maybe that appeals to some people, but it turns a lot of people off. And when you turn a lot of people off that are especially your core consumers, that's not good. And the other thing is Disney lives on nostalgia, guys. Like, none of their newer stuff really hits with you. I mean, there's very, very, very little that really like makes you say, "Oh my God, I love Disney." A lot of what when we went to Disney this summer, I can't believe how many fucking adults were there. Okay, you would think that there was like kids everywhere. There were probably more adults than there were kids. Right?
But those are all kids. That's their best customer. Those are kids those are adults that used to go there when they were kids and are going there to relive the magic of it. And then they bring their kids there. And that's the idea of it, that it becomes generational.
Carlos, if you took your daughter there, would she care at all?
I wouldn't take her there.
But if you did, would she care? Would she get excited for Mickey Mouse or no?
Of course she would, but I wouldn't take her there.
She knows what Mickey Mouse is at this age?
Yeah, like she's got some of the Mickey Mouse toys and some of the Minnie Mouse toys. But I've already had this conversation with my wife, and we're going to start limiting some of the contact with that. Like, I like to be the thing. I like to be the thing that is putting the ideas into my kids' head. Anyone that has kids knows how easy it is, how impressionable that they are. And I don't need anyone, whether it's a television network or a school curriculum, to be putting anything into my children. That I'm the one. We made those kids, right? I made those kids, and we made them because we wanted them.
Wait,
right?
How did you make the kids?
We'll talk offline. I'll show you some. I'll show you some videos.
How they come from space or something.
I'll show you some videos.
But I do think this could be an opportunity actually for people looking to get into Disney. You got to wait until that signal comes.
Here's the question.
Well, before you say it, there is going to be a signal eventually that shows up that tells you, like, wait a second, Disney is back. And I don't know when that's going to be, but majority of it is literally right now, because of the share price being down so much, eventually the company and this board of directors is going to say, listen, we got to stop the bleeding. Okay, this is stupid. Like, I get that we're trying to, promote a message, but if we don't exist, there's no message at all. So we need to
remember, like, this goes back to our ESG conversation.
Yeah.
The ESG mandates don't care whether or not they're helpful or hurtful to your company in the short term. This is why companies like Bud Light and or Target, well, Target not really, but Bud Light are doubling down on it. Because if you don't follow those mandates, you will be replaced with someone that will follow those mandates. And the idea is, if you continue to repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, eventually it just becomes normal. And so this is the growing pains on the way to having this new mandate be accepted. You understand what I'm saying? So, like, Bob Iger can only do so much. The board of directors can only do so much. You keep pushing back on it, and then what happens? There are, like,
I have the solution, by the way. I know how the Disney situation gets solved.
Go for it.
Real quick, Mr. Seymour Duck, thank you for $10 super chat. Warren Buffett, the best thing that happens to us is when a great company gets into temporary trouble. We want to buy them when they're on the operating table. I agree. I think the solution.
What if it's terminal? But the thing is, what if it's, to Chris's point, what if it's terminal? Or what if it's a bigger? It's not an outpatient surgery. This is a bigger deal.
This is how you solve the issue.
Okay.
Bob Iger calls up Tim Cook and says, "Get me out of this shit." He doesn't want to be the CEO. He retired. They brought him back because the other guy was fucking it up so much, and now he's just there. He doesn't, like, you see him in the interviews, he doesn't care anymore about Disney. He's old. He's like,
what? So you say Apple buys Disney?
Apple buys Disney. This is
And
so
what
simple.
turns it even to more woker?
No, I think
woker
Tim Cook is a
Disney?
killer. I think he'll get rid of all that woke stuff, and I
No,
think they'll Apple
no,
TV Plus or
no.
whatever. It's first of all, what does Apple do? They buy iconic brands. Disney is the most iconic content brand in the history.
Yeah,
of
but what notable acquisition like that has Apple ever really done? I can't think of any real notable.
Well, this would be Tim
acquisitions
Cook's
like
legacy. He
Apple.
gets.
Yeah.
Think about it. Steve
They're not
Jobs
known, but
came
they're-
from the Disney Pixar world, but it would be so full circle as that
They're
last
not,
thing he
but
does.
I don't know. That's just not Apple's playbook. Listen, we can't shit on Apple. They are the most valuable company in the world. So, like, until somebody does it better than them, we can't say we can't.
They buy
fault
Disney. Disney's not getting out of this mess, bro. That's why I'm not. I wouldn't buy the leaps. I don't. First of all, they're selling off ABC. They're selling off Fox. Or FX. They're selling off ESPN. They're gonna get some short-term capital from that. They don't have a content library that can continuously. Disney Plus is a flop.
No, they have.
can't
Disney
compete
Plus is not
with
doing well, but
Netflix.
they have one of the best libraries. The reason why I would buy the leaps is not because it's because I would want to have exposure to the company, but also limit my downside. I don't want to go outright and buy a significant number of shares, whether they're paying a dividend or not, and lock up that much capital because I don't.
I just don't
believe
see
in
where
that much.
Disney's growth is at all. I literally the parks or whatever. Disney Plus is a flop. It's a flop. It's not profitable. They're losing money by the hour. They can't compete with Netflix R-rated type of content. They're never going to bring it there. It's a flop. They're selling off. For them to sell off ESPN, which is it is one of the 4 things on the iPhone Safari browser. That's how popular that website is. ESPN, Yahoo, Disney, and Apple. For them to sell that off because they can't make any money, like where is this company's growth coming from? Other than
By the way, I want to address something. Jackalope said Disney standing up for gay people makes them woke. No, that's not what makes them woke. All right.
Where is
It's
that?
Someone said right here, Disney standing
Jackalope,
up for gay people, right? No, that's not it. Trust me, there's ways to be inclusive without being so freaking forward with it that you're literally just shoving it in people's faces. That's the problem that Disney has. Shoving shit in people's faces, and you're trying to rewrite fucking history. You're trying to rewrite things that are already existing, that are standard practice. When you start doing that, bro, you're basically placating to a certain segment of the population. Instead of creating new things for them specifically, what you're doing is taking stuff that already exists and then saying, you know what, let's whitewash it and put it on there. Let's say, what if they did a Black Panther what is that thing called? Black Panther remake with a white guy saying, you know what, this is
It's
I
the
don't
Great
know.
Panther.
It's the Great Panther. You don't think that would upset people that were legitimately Black Panther fans? And it's the same thing with the other way. They had this whole thing with Netflix even did this thing with with Cleopatra. Like Cleopatra was like Macedonian with Macedonian genes, yet they made her Black, right? Which to some people, it's like, whatever, that's good. That's more inclusion. But dude, I was watching interviews in Egypt. Egyptian people were so goddamn upset because they were like, you're trying to rewrite our history. You couldn't find an Egyptian woman to play Cleopatra? That makes no sense. So I think a lot of times, instead of trying to be inclusive by taking away from an already existing character that's been like that for the last 50 to 100 years, create more content specifically built for that audience. That's all we're saying.
Do you think the company has the cultural prowess to recognize that you are the majority of Americans or the majority of the world that doesn't want this force-fed shit and change its ways? Or do you think that can never happen under Bob Iger?
I think it happens because the share price is the ultimate. The share prices are the ultimate equalizer when it comes to bad decisions. If you are making bad decisions, the market will let you know.
The market,
and then eventually you're gonna have to pivot away from the stupidity.
And just to piggyback off of what Chris said, I don't like it. To me, what I think the problem is not so much the message that they're pushing, it's the fact that they're pushing any sort of message. I think part of the appeal of Disney for us when we were kids is that it allows you to be innocent and live in a world of magic and fantasy. And what they're trying to do is they're politicizing that, and they're basically trying to imprint a certain political ideology onto children at a very young age when they should be allowed to just be kids. Yeah. So I think parents don't want to have that at all imprinted on their children at that age, and then they might disagree with the actual message itself. So I think that's what the big problem is. The problem is me as a parent, I don't want anyone trying to imprint any sort of political or social ideology onto my children except for me. And one of the reasons I would go to Disney is to just be immersed in the magic of stories, right? And not have anything political be there. And so that's what I think the problem, that's what I think the rub is. And we did talk about the fact that the prices at the parks went up, but people will find the money for something like Disney. They have the ability to charge those premiums, you know.
The other thing is we're looking at this from an American audience. We are a lot more accepting than other countries and other cultures. Okay, we're at least somewhat accepting, where we will accept a level of progressive thought that the other countries may not be ready for. And one of the problems is now everything is globalized, right? So if you try to throw a message that resonates only with the American audience, because we are a little bit more accepting of certain ideas, and think that that's going to translate well into the other countries, no, it's not. The other countries they'll be the first ones to turn off to it. One of the other things is now you're sacrificing your international margins, which is actually where your business will be able to grow significantly.
Bring up hand in hands comment. I was just going to say that at 8:00. I had the ability to go to Disney or Universal, and I took my kid to Universal. You know why? It was just like I remember the amusement parks. She had a great time. Mm-hmm. She was hanging out with like the Despicable Me, the little yellow creatures from that.
What are they called?
Minions. She was hanging out with the Minions. You know what I mean? Like she was hanging out with like a Megatron from the Transformers. It was a lot of fun. We just had a lot of fun, and it was so cool, and it was packed, and it was absolutely almost too packed. But that's what you want your parks to be. And if you ask me what the experience was, it was just like I said, it was the experience of just being there, involved in the magic of movies, and seeing a bunch of kids being innocent and playing. It had nothing to do with any sort of social ideology. Nothing was a political statement. It was just about having fun. And I'll keep taking my kids to Universal.
I hope they do a Star Wars nights. I hope they do a Star Wars land. I would love to actually go to Star Wars land where you could relive some of the stuff around Star Wars.
I don't think they can, because it's like the IP.
No, it is. They own Lucasfilms. They own all the IP for it. That's why if you go to Disney right now, you can go to all the Star Wars rides.
I saw a little bit of Spider-Man. Disney's facing massive summer.
Look,
big releases, but they all flopped. I mean, that movie. Look, Indiana Jones was released, and freaking Sound of Freedom beat it on the opening day, not the whole weekend, but on opening day. Yeah, opening day.
A QAnon conspiracy beat.
Yeah, a QAnon conspiracy movie that was made in 2018 for $12 million.
So why can't Apple buy them, bro? I really think this is not the worst idea for Apple.
But that's like saying, why didn't Apple buy Spotify? That would have been a smarter move.
Or Tesla. That would have also been smart too.
Well, they had a chance. Listen, and they did. They had a chance to buy Tesla, and he said no. I just don't think that that's Apple's strategy. I don't think they want that, because there is a bunch of baggage that comes along with that, right? I don't think you can win either way. If you did stray too far from the Disney brand, then you're going to be criticized for that. And if you continue what they're doing, then it's going to affect your own stock price. They're the most valuable company in the world. I don't think they want to buy a sinking ship right now, especially if they're trying to push their own Apple TV Plus. Why not just take all of the good shows, buy the franchises from them, or poach the people that work there and just build up your own brand?
Man, one movie that like I wish I knew about earlier? Fucking Frozen. Dude, Frozen is awesome.
I
like,
can't.
I haven't seen it, bro.
Don't, bro. It'll drive you insane.
I still haven't
seen
it.
Watch it. It'll drive you insane, dude.
Dude, Frozen was so fucking good. Like, yeah, my niece loves Frozen, so like every time we get anything, it's usually Elsa themed, because she loves Elsa. I mean, when I went to Disney, the best part about the whole like experience was going to like the Frozen live action.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah,
thing.
The sing
that was awesome. The sing along, dude. At the end where she does the song like "Let It Go," and then like the theater filled up with like artificial snow coming down.
Yeah.
Like,
it's pretty badass.
I felt good, man. It was awesome. That's like the highlight of the
They do those out here too at the theater where they have Jimmy Kimmel. They do those out here too, where like they fill the theater and they do sing-alongs where you get like the karaoke style of the lyrics at the bottom. And then at Brooklyn Bowl, at Hollywood Bowl, they do these live events where they actually like will play the movie and perform the songs with live performers. There was one for Encanto, which actually was a really good movie too. Yeah. And my daughter watches the YouTube videos of that. I did just as soon as they come back around, I'm going to take her. But it's like those things are a lot of fun. Actually, they are a lot of fun. Or like Disney on Ice or something. Those things are.
And it's sad because that came out 10 years ago. 10 years ago.
And they have Frozen 2 as well. But
those they came Frozen.
Those are good. Like those are good movies. Good solid movies.
And that's what I'm saying, that's the transformation that we've seen in Disney, that they went from Frozen to whatever the fuck is coming out now,
Yo,
Okay, we got
bring
some
up
super chats.
some serious.
Sherry
What the hell are you guys giving us
Jethering.
all this money?
Thank you for the 50. Thank you, gang, for the $50.
Thank you. Yeah, gang.
Chris, keep going.
Bro, I'll
Chris.
keep going. I'll keep going. More
We got
super
another
chats.
50. We got another 50.
Disney,
Thank
IP
you, Terry.
content.
We
Buy
appreciate it.
puts.
Guys, what do you think about Nintendo?
I was just gonna
Dude,
say, who was that? That was
dude.
Mr. Yo, Mr. That was the shit.
That is
That
awesome,
is
dude.
the new.
So do we
shit.
buy Nintendo stock? Is that no?
Bro,
looked it up. It's not that
Pokemon cards. Let me tell you, I had this discussion. I had no idea how much money is in fucking Pokemon cards. Okay.
Yeah.
Dude, there are people buying Pokemon cards for the price of a house. Okay. Pokemon IP is like crazy valuable.
Bring up Nintendo stock.
Mario is crazy, dude. Nintendo, I bow
Bro,
down
Chris,
to you.
Steve called me the other day and he actually pitched me Nintendo. He's really thinking of it seriously.
Yes,
So I'm actually
absolutely.
curious.
Okay, the only thing with Nintendo is like there's that one guy when what is it, Natashi Miyamoto?
Satoshi Nakamoto?
No, not
that's
Satoshi. That's the Bitcoin guy. That's the
Yo,
Bitcoin
you
guy.
really think
Oh, that's
you're
so
like
racist
the
of me,
funniest
bro.
guy? It's crazy to me. But no, the one guy that programs like the games that become the hits. He's like the only guy that can program them. Like there was a whole documentary I watched on like Donkey Kong's adventure, which was amazing, and then Donkey Kong 2, which failed because he didn't program it. It just doesn't feel the same. It's that idea of like an Apple product just feels a certain way, and this guy is like the only guy that can do this. If they don't have someone to pick up that torch, this guy's old, man, and so I don't know if they can continue to have those hits on hits on hits like the Mario Karts. You know?
Okay,
like,
here's the question. Do you think Nintendo IP is better or Disney IP?
Nintendo.
Dude, Mario's gonna
Mario
fucking kill
is
it.
the
Yo, Chris,
shit.
why are you saying
Did you see the
Mario?
movie? Did you see the
Mario.
movie?
It's a me, a Mario.
It's
I'm gonna
me.
get it, man. It's a Mario. I love the Mario.
Yeah.
Mario and the Luigi.
Did you see the movie?
Yo, dude, I saw it twice.
Mario?
I saw it alone.
It's so well made. Like it's just good. It's so fucking well made.
Illumination is the studio that did the whole thing, bro.
So good. So
On
good.
point, man.
All right. Are we doing any? Are we doing anybody coming in? Because we're at an hour.
We're already an hour, and I put the link. No one's coming in. We have two quick things to do. First, I'll leave Truist for the end, Chris. Actually, no, Chris, I'm going to put on a timer. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to do your Truist preview because we can't go in segue, and then we're going to talk about Netflix, and then that's it. So,
okay.
2 minutes on the clock. I know everyone heard it yesterday, but because earnings are tomorrow, we got to give it. What do you expect?
Sure, you got to give it. Yeah, expectations.
I think
I'm going to put something in the chat, which I think I'd love to talk about.
Okay, starting. Yeah. Go ahead.
I think Truist is going to do hopefully well tomorrow. I'm not like, oh my God, holding my breath for it. But I think the market has really oversold the company. I think this will be the company's time to shine where they're able to show off their not only their net interest income, but also their non-net interest income. So basically what happens is there is a huge business in providing services as a bank that Truist makes its money on, right? They're able to generate money. Same thing with their insurance business. Those two things people are going to get a view of tomorrow and saying, wait a second, this is not just a bank. This is a conglomerate where I'm getting X, Y, and Z. They're not going bankrupt. Holy shit. Oh, wait a second. There's still a 5.5%, 6% dividend that's still growing. That's super secure. So I think the market is going to realize tomorrow what they actually have on their hands. And I think we'll see some positivity, but I'm not holding my breath. We've had a pretty good run up from 27 to 30. What is it? 36 right now, right? I think tomorrow will be an okay day. I'm not going to say it's going to be the greatest day and it's going to shoot up to the 40s and 50s tomorrow. Because if that happens, great. But I'm not expecting it. I'm actually expecting maybe a small sell-off because the regionals have done exceptionally well throughout this entire week. So if there is any sort of weakness in TFC, the only thing that would worry me a little bit is some of the newer regulations that may be coming out where the banks are required to hold more liquid capital on their balance sheet. And because Truist is not a small bank, their assets are in the $500 billion range. They're not going to be exempt from some of the new regulations that the Fed is coming out with, but management is smart enough and they're probably going to say, you know what, everyone else is raising their dividends. Our dividend is good enough. Let's pause a little bit. Let's
That's
take some
time.
of that money. Let's take some of the money from our dividends and instead put it into our cash savings, and that'll boost up the share price. So,
All right.
just a thought.
Perfect. Well, that was good. And again, guys, I don't like timing Chris like that, but we spent 15 minutes on it yesterday, and that's why I don't even want to talk about Truist, because we spent so much time yesterday. But so many in the comments are like Truist, Truist, Truist. So
Give the people what they want.
Yeah, that's
all right. I
want
to share something real quick, and this is just to get a take on you guys and people. This is something that Dave Lee posted yesterday. That
this was good.
It blew up, and I responded to it and got into like somewhat a heated debate. And this is on the heels of it's the opposite question that we were asked the other day about a kid who had $100,000, whether he tells his parents. So here's the flip side of this. Dave Lee posts, my 8-year-old keeps asking how much Tesla stock I own. What do I tell him? I keep trying to change the subject, but he keeps asking every few days for the past 6 months. Persistent kid. Now he comes up with specific dollar amounts and asks if I have more Tesla than that or not. And then he added more info. My very inquisitive 8-year-old also asked, what happens to your assets when you die? Who does it go to? What's a will? Where's your will? What does your will say? Etc. So without going into the comments, unless you read the thread below, like, what do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of disclosing to your children your holdings?
Chris?
Bryce, I don't know what my dad has. He never really tells me the truth. I can assume what he has, but I mean, and that's normal. I think no kid should be growing up thinking to themselves that, hey, I've got it made in the shade. My daddy's going to leave me this. My daddy's going to leave me that. Me and my brother, our greatest strengths growing up was that we never expected our dad to give us anything growing up. Like it was set in stone in the brain, in the back of our heads, saying you will either succeed or you will fail, but it will be all about you. And it's not going to be about my dad. And that's it. You know,
sounds like it, but no, it's interesting. The comments
that's exactly what I thought of it. I was like, yo, when I was 8 years old, I wasn't asking my mom what happens when they die. We're like, what's up?
But when you were 8 years old, you didn't have Google. You have to understand, you didn't have.
Yes, I did have Google, Carlos.
No,
you know, my dad. There was a website. Our computer got hacked by a porn website, and my dad thought I was on it. I didn't know what porn was at 8 years old. My sister was on that fucking shit.
You didn't.
So we definitely did have Google.
You did not have access to the internet the way that like kids have access to the internet now. Like my parents, in order for them to hide something from me, they would just put it in a box somewhere I couldn't reach it, and I would never. You know what I mean? It wasn't like you can't hide information as much as you can.
I don't know, man. I think Dave Lee is already really rich, and I think his kids have had they just traveled the world for like the past couple months or whatever, which is great. But if your kid is traveling the world, like we're not fucking I wasn't traveling the world at 8 years old. So I think when a kid is doing all these experiences, they're like, huh, who's paying for this? Oh, dad's paying for this? Dad, how much fucking money do you have? And that's what led to the question.
I don't know, but 8 years old.
Look, here's what I do know. Every family that's rich, the kids might not know that they're rich, but every family that's poor, they know they're poor.
Exactly.
That
was us, bro. My mom was the teacher. My dad
grew up poor, and we knew that we were poor, and we knew that we were poor because, like you said, everyone would come back at the end of summer break and talk about all the vacations that they went. They went to Disney, they went to whatever. I was like, yo, I went around the block. I played wiffle ball, and we blew a bunch of shit up on July 4th. Like, that was it, you know. But
you know how you know you're poor in Brooklyn when your mom yells at you or your dad yells at you for turning the AC on. It's boy, open a window. It's like, why do we have the AC then?
Yeah, my mother would just say, just take another shower. I was like, I'm wrinkly. You know, just share it again. Share the screen.
Oh, share the screen again. Okay.
Okay. So I responded here. I wouldn't tell him the risk that it could lower his incentive to work hard or leverage it against you when you are against purchasing. Hold on. When you are against purchasing something that he wants is too great. I would say simply that you have more than some, less than others, but there's still a lot of work to do. Someone had responded, I would absolutely be worried about this. But then it started a whole thread underneath that people thinking that it would motivate an 8-year-old to want to achieve the same that his dad did. But just based on the questions that the kid is asking, if you look at the questions,
I think you're right, Carlos. I think you're so right on this
about a will. I just know this, and you can stop sharing. I just know the fact that I knew that we were poor, and I saw like friends of mine whose like parents were doctors and lawyers, and I knew that they were going to be okay, right? I knew that I was on my own. I knew, like, 16 years old, this is basically it. I got to get out and get a job and start building something for myself. Had my parents have had certain things, I just know that it wouldn't have been as much of a motivator. Yep. And I know that when I asked them for things, if I wanted to, like a trip, or why can I have those sneakers, or why do we get shitty Christmas gifts, you know, I would have been like, I know you guys have the money. And I think it would have caused a rift. And my whole thing was, one of my last comments to someone who was particularly nasty was, you can always tell them later, but once you say it to them, you can never take it back. And so all the lessons you want to teach them about being responsible with money and working hard and having good work ethic, you can teach them that, because I learned that from poor parents. So you don't need the money. And so I don't know, that was my take, and I was curious what people thought. I mean, Johnny's saying I share everything. Admit Danger Patel is saying Chris sounds like the kid sounds like a gold digger. The Warren is saying the kid put a hit on his dad. So if Dave Lee,
bro, that shit happens, bro. That shit happens, low key. If you fucked over,
let me tell you a funny story. So when I was young, I grew up in near Red Hook, Brooklyn. We moved from Carroll Gardens to Red Hook.
Okay, I know
Red Hook was a lot more like shady back in the day. Right now, if you go, it's really nice. I remember one time this dude and it was between Smith and Court Street. I forgot what exactly.
Right there, bro. I lived on Carroll Street and Smith.
You did, dude? I grew up. I was on 321 PS58. PS58.
Now you guys are on a podcast.
I went to PS58.
I was at 360 Carroll Street.
Nice. Oh, dude. Small
Street.
World.
Right
Small
there,
world,
bro.
dude.
Right there.
So when we moved to Red Hook, my parents were immigrants. We would get Payless shoes. It was a thing, like that's just what immigrants do. You don't fucking get like no $100 Nikes.
Payless shit. You don't get
I remember I got mugged. This guy came up to me. He's like, "Yo, give me your shit." And I was like, "Bro, I ain't got nothing. Like, what do you want?" And he's like, "Give me your shoes."
How old were you?
Huh?
How old were you?
I think I was like 10. I was 10. So I was walking home by myself, and I was like, "All right, whatever, man." So I gave him my shoes. He looked at him. He's like, "Yo, are these Payless?" I was like, "Yeah." Bro, he gave me my shoes back. He's like, "Yo, I'm so sorry."
Damn. And you were all offended. You're like, you're taking my motherfucking
to get mugged, bro.
I mean, it's sad. Like, y'all see, you want to know something funny? I mean, my mom worked at like one of those like I don't know what they're called, but basically it's like a wholesalers on J Street Borough Hall. You know the J Street Borough Hall, like how dude, that's where we were poor. That's what poor people did. We went to work where we could. And so I remember did you guys ever, like, I had Shacks. You guys ever had like people had Jordans?
Yes, I had those.
I had Shacks.
Yep.
I know it's weird, right?
What is it?
You ever heard of Shacks?
No.
It's some bullshit shoe that's like sold at Walmart and stuff.
Oh, hold on a second. It's not no bullshit shoes. I had Shacks, okay?
They hurt my feet. Shacks. I remember the pain I had on my pinky. On my
it's like my shoes were robbed twice. I got jumped for mine.
No, I used to go to the place called Dr. J's in Newark, which is the wholesaler thing you're talking about, Chris.
Yeah. Well, that's what.
Bro,
that's
I got you. If we're doing the poor Olympics, I got you both beat. Okay.
All right. Go for it.
I would get. Okay. This is a true story. I got my parents would give us. We would go to Sears to get our clothes like once a year, and then any other shoes that I needed, we would go to this place called Roberta's. Now Roberta's was like a small. It wasn't even a chain. It was like a local mom and pop store, and all the shoes, the soles were plastic, like not even rubber. They were plastic. So everything was fine because they kind of looked like Nikes. They had the same sort of design. But bro, every time it rained, it was like I was on an ice skating rink. I could not stand up. I know you're laughing at me, but it is the truth. It was literally like being on roller skates. I couldn't walk because it was so slippery because they were plastic shoes. So like one of my days I was wearing these things, the kids were like, "Hey, why don't we play some like football after school?" And the thing is like, fine. And so of course we're there playing some football, and I was doing okay, and I really wanted to like get a touchdown, and it starts to fucking rain. Okay. It starts to fucking rain. So now we're like down by a bunch of whatever. They throw the Hail Mary pass at me. I catch the fucking ball, and I'm sitting there looking like Wile E. Coyote running in place. I have zero fucking traction. I can't run in my plastic shoes. I finally got enough, whatever. I got tackled. We still won the game, but
that's what the bottom of your shoes look like, bro. There was no traction.
Bro, it was plastic, like legit fucking hard ass plastic. It was so embarrassing. And these are things in my childhood where I was like, I just want like a pair of.
Okay, well, bro, go ahead, Chris.
I'll give you one last life hack that me and my brother learned. So me and my brother, we loved video games, but we couldn't fucking afford video games, like $59 at the time. So our life hack was that we would make friends with the rich kids, and so the rich kids would play the video game for like a week. Right? They would buy the video game a week, 2 weeks, and then be like, "Hey, bro, you mind if I just borrow this game?" And dude, we played the same games as the rich kids. They're just 1 week or 2 weeks after. Right. That was it. It was great times, man. So me and my brother, we would pool our money together, and we would get the console so that we could play. But then for the video games, we would never buy a single video game. We would just go to our rich friends who were like buying this shit on opening day, waiting in line. And we would just wait 2 weeks until they beat everything. And then we would just borrow from them and play.
Okay,
there you go.
What's the opposite side of the argument? Why should he tell his kid and have it not be catastrophic for that kid's life?
I mean,
because Dave Lee's like a multimillionaire off Tesla. Right?
Dude, actually, somebody in the comments.
Someone said his average is $3 a share or something.
$3 a share. Okay, no, but not just that. I'm gonna see if I can pull it up. Somebody was like, "Yo, I remember you saying something on the podcast once that you were buying at $3 a share and you were putting $30,000 into Tesla a month for months while your wife built up conviction." This dude, Dave Lee, probably has one of the highest share counts of anyone that you know on YouTube. I think he's got a position that's a multiple of even what Stephen Mark Ryan has. And Stephen Mark Ryan
has to be 10, 20 million worth of Tesla, something like that.
Stephen Mark Ryan before the split had 6,000 shares.
How many does he have now?
Well, with the split, he has 5 times that number of shares.
So he's 30. So Stephen Mark Ryan has 30,000. This is public on his Patreon, right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, well, he's talked about it. Yeah, he has all of his buys. All of his
Stephen
buys.
Mark Ryan is 30,000. You think what Dave Lee is 100,000? Like that?
Easily. I mean, George DeBolt retired with 40,000 shares, and this was again pre-split. Well, actually, no. Yeah, if it was pre-split, then he's got 200,000 shares.
Okay, so what's the bull case for telling your kid, "Yeah, I have a couple million or tens of millions in Tesla"? How do you justify it?
I can't think of any reason why you would want your kids to have that knowledge.
I would think the one thing and the only thing is to show them the power of long-term conviction. Finding a company being long-term convicted and saying, look, I was able to use this to become wealthy. You should do the same. I'm going to take some of this money that I have, and I'm going to give it to you at a very early age, and I'm going to let you invest it and learn on your own, because eventually I want you to get to the point where when you're an adult, you already know how to invest the money. So what are some of the tips and tricks that I did in order to get this money? Well, I looked for companies that had outsized potential, that had strong leadership.
But how do you reconcile the idea of giving someone a little bit of money to play with versus that kid working?
It's not even giving them the money. You have to think about it from their perspective, right? When you're, say, 8, 9, 10 years old, the pressure of their peers is more important than their parents, let's say. So no matter what you say to them, and you have to remember this too, and this is a point that I made, once you tell that kid, they're going to tell their friends, and then their friends are going to tell their parents. And now their parents are going to judge you and make comments about you. And so you're opening yourself up to that. It's the same reason why I tell you, don't tell anybody what your positions are, even in your close circle of friends or colleagues. There's no need for it. You get no benefit from it, and you're only opening yourself up to negativity and criticism. So anything that you want to teach your children, you can teach them that without telling them like, hey, if you do fuck up with your whole life, I basically bankrolled you and you're safe. It's really hard for a kid to, say, 8, 9, 10 years old, to understand the lessons you're trying to teach them when you basically told them, I don't have to work. They know what millionaires are. They know what billionaires are. You know what I mean? And if you tell them, unless you're like a billionaire, like you're Mark Cuban's kid, like they know. If you're
no, bro, but this is so true. I have my uncle in Malaysia. He's done very well for himself. He came from dirt poverty in India. He's doing really well. Like I think 400 or 500 grand a year. He's some executive at some bank. His son is a little brat, and I know him because he's my cousin. He's like 8 years old, and his son literally says, "Oh, I don't have to work. My dad is an investor. How old is the kid? I mean, he's 8 years old, bro, and he says this to me, and I'm like, what do you mean you don't have to work? Your dad's an investor, and like that's because he's an only child, so my uncle spoils the crap out of him, so the kid knows, hey, we're loaded. There's going to be no issue."
Look, Mike Herbert, right? Mike Herbert. And look, people seem to agree with me. And I'm sure we are talking to a bunch of people from all over the world, different socioeconomic backgrounds, different holdings, different financial situations. And it seems like that's the move. Sorry, son, it's not your business until I'm ready to tell you when I think you're ready to hear. That's what Heinz says. Zokol, true. Canman, I teach the nest theory. Kicked out and hope you can fly on the way down. That's how you got to do it. Jorge Rubio, you can tell your kids about your assets as long as you do teach them hard work, discipline, and financial literacy. I think you could tell them about your home. Teach them about your home. Tell them that your home is worth a value, but telling them that there's physical stocks there. I mean, Mike Herbert. Dave sold his app and went all into Tesla. I assume he sold the app for $500K to $1 million and rolled it all into Tesla at $3 a share. I don't know, but imagine he's sitting on $50 million. Austin, that's incredibly difficult to reverse engineer into your children. Carlos is right with this one. Don't tell your children. That's just something that I feel like I wouldn't.
I think wealthy. There's plenty of wealthy families out there that have had this proven structure of basically teaching their kids via experience. Like if you think about like the Rothschilds, right? Like the Rothschilds are a multi-generational wealth
Right.
family. That should be your goal, to basically become not so much like the Rothschilds where, you know, like you're controlling the world secretly via your children, but more along the lines of impart values and then give them the capital so that they can take it to the next level, and that there's a strong what's the word, a strong heritage behind everything that you're doing. And I'm sure, but at 8 years old, that's not when you should be talking to your kids about anything. 8 years is too young. I think the best time would be probably around like junior year of high school, because that's when kids are about to go to college and everything else. And that's when you can sit them down and say, look, the source of all the stuff that we have is X, Y, and Z. The reason why I am where I am is because of this. This is the story of what I had to struggle through to get to where I am. I want to eventually leave all of this to you, but I'm not going to do it anytime soon. I want you to build something of your own, and then we can discuss how we're going to help each other in the future.
Or like you lie to them. You lie to them and say, "I have a bunch of money for you, but it's only it's in your IRA, so you got to get to 59.5." Like whatever it is, you make it seem like it's untouchable.
The kid has to feel like they have a purpose in life to go do it on their own.
Absolutely, because like you said, you're going to create a bunch of bratty kids.
That was the whole point of Inception.
No matter what?
The whole point of the movie was to plant an idea in the guy's head to make him think that he can do his own thing. He doesn't have to follow in his father's footsteps.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Chris, go ahead. You were gonna say that?
No, I'm just saying, like, if you look at the differentiation, like right now, someone put it that the Vanderbilts were broke in 50 years. The Vanderbilts had one of the largest fortunes in the history of the world. Okay. Yet 50 years later, all of their descendants,
that's in one lifetime. Like, what?
Yeah, one lifetime, 2 generations. I told you, 2 generations. Most people are 2 generations away from becoming abject poor, like going into abject poverty, because every time someone needed something, it was like, oh, here you go, guys. Here's a Porsche. Oh, it's fine that you don't want to drive last year's Porsche. Here's some more, you know? So like there was this one interview that Piers Morgan did with like an OnlyFans girl. And said, what do you think's going to happen? And, you know, her response was, oh, my kids will be fine. They'll be driving like Ferraris or something.
Oh yeah. She goes, they'll be bitching about me while they're driving Ferraris and whatnot, because she's literally like, her kids are in junior high school and everyone in the school knows that her mom, that their mom is an OnlyFans model, and the kid's getting into fights defending his mom because they're calling her all these, you know, every name in the book. And so he's like, you not realize that you're ruining this kid? She's like, whatever, they can complain about me from their mansion and their Ferraris.
Yeah, and let me tell you, that's when people end up getting into the fucked up parts of society. They start getting into drugs. They start getting into like all sorts of weird stuff. And then it's really sad to see someone who's got the golden spoon in their mouth die at the age of like 25 from an overdose of drugs. Why? Because they've had access. Like that's the one great thing about being poor. Okay, I don't want to like make poverty like this great thing. I was too poor to do any drugs. I was too poor to do any bad drugs. Like when I was in college, you know, I was like, hey, you want to do this coke? Nah, bro, I ain't got the money. You know, like you need to have some money to do drugs. You know,
I'm not going to say the name because of YouTube, but that name is the perfect example.
AT was kind of spot on. I mean, I think that kind of settles that kind of ends the conversation. Once again, we went to an hour and a half. We said we wouldn't, or at least I said we wouldn't. But that was good. I enjoyed that conversation. I'm glad we got a bunch of.
It's like, yo, bro, you want to smoke this bowl with me? No, I can't, man. I don't got the money.
I'm broke, bro.
Chris. Don't invite Chris, that fucking broke dude. Don't invite him.
Yeah, when we were buying cigarettes, we were buying Lucy's like 25 cents. It's like
I never got into smoking. Smoking was always too expensive for me.
It was hard.
Have you ever tried weed, Chris, or no?
Huh? I tried once when I
was actually no, a couple of times.
I did it once when I was in college because one of my friends was like, hey man, let's get high. I was like, okay. And I felt funny, but I didn't feel like, oh my God, this is going to be like a life-changing thing for me. And the second time I did it was like on my bachelor party in Vegas, because there's dispensaries fucking everywhere. So me and my brother-in-law, like, bro, we got blazed. I'm talking about like, I was like this the entire weekend. So
so you never did it again after that? You did it 2 times? That's it? Your whole life?
No.
Wow.
Most of the time, if you have a bad experience with it, that's how it was for me for a long time. Yeah, I had a horrible experience my first year in college.
Me and Carlos are gonna link up and do ayahuasca. We're gonna fucking
y'all
all
are
of our
fucking
demons,
crazy
bro.
for that, bro.
We're
I am
talking about
never
that.
We're gonna do
doing
it.
ayahuasca.
We're gonna do it.
I was
That
telling you
shit
guys,
is
one of my
scary,
clients been trying to get me to do that forever, and I'm just like, oh man, I don't know. He's like, yeah, you got to blog off a weekend. He's like, you're gonna meet your demons and all this stuff, and I'm like, I don't know if I
I'm
want to
down.
meet my demons.
I'm
like,
down, bro.
Cybertruck, like.
I was thinking that
I'm
Zoko,
down,
the first
bro.
time you didn't inhale. That's the I didn't inhale the first time either. I was like, what is this? There's no feeling in it.
You know who's gonna be my final boss in my ayahuasca dream? It's gonna be fucking Alex Carr.
I knew it. I knew you were gonna say that. I knew you were gonna say that. Pound tier
It's gonna be
$18.99 today, baby. And then it fell back down.
It's
All
like
right,
I
guys, I
heard
gotta
you were
jet.
talking
No,
about me.
by the way, let me clarify. I don't do this in college. Yes, for 4 years. Oh my god, yes, like crazy. But after college, I stopped because I'm home alone. Like
I'm with Elemental P. I bet Imnot would be chatty. Yo, people would check the YouTube thing and think that it was on 2x. And be like, what the fuck?
No. But when I was with my friends in college and we used to do it, bro, you think I'm philosophical now?
I can
Like
imagine.
the shit that I would bring up, bro, they would be like, "Shut the
Dude,
fuck
we would get
up."
high. We would get high in college, right? And I was one of the few guys. Like I played guitar, so I would get in there and it was like a game. We would just like just get high with like the local weed guy on our floor, and they would play a song on the radio on the CD or whatever, and I would transcribe it. I would play it. So we would like do Tool songs, and then they'd have like the black lights and all that stuff. I got actually some crazy stories. Like I was a screenwriting major, and my final script in my last year was essentially based on it's like stories from that group.
Of course.
It was where is it? It's this movie.
Oh, you made a poster out of it?
Yeah.
Thou
The
shalt
thing that
not
should
be.
not be 24 hours.
24 hours can be
24 hours is a lifetime. It was a movie called the Thing That Should Not Be. And if anyone's a Metallica fan, they know what that song is. It's the third song on Master of Puppets. And it was loosely based on some of the crazy shit that happened with some of those kids. And that was the time when I realized like drugs can really, really fuck up your life.
Yeah.
And I made it a point to like never. That's why I'm afraid of that ayahuasca stuff, because I've seen too much. I'll tell you offline about the story. Maybe we'll talk about it sometime.
I'll tell you guys about the Adderall story next time. So you got to come back to hear the Chris Patel.
Right, yeah, we got you.
Yo, my friends were doing a lot of Adderall in college to prepare for like tests. I never got into. I was like, you need Adderall to get energy. I was like, nah, I never did that. I had Red Bull.
The thing in my day was the Special K, man. The Special K.
I've heard of that drug, but I've never.
Bro, like just like the preface to the story that I'll tell you, and I'll
save it for next time. Come on, we gotta go.
Right,
save it for next time.
All right, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow, 10 p.m. Thank you all for being here.
561 people. Thank you.
We will see you guys tomorrow, 10 p.m. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Later, guys.
Good night.